Hello and welcome back to the Gorilla Biker, and today what we're going to be doing is a brand new series. I'm just after leaving work on a Saturday because that's how my life is these days, but what we're going to be doing is a new series called Is It a Good Commuter or Commuter Bike, etc. I'm not actually sure of the final name yet, but it's going to be about commuting on a bike, and today we're going to be using my beautiful Honda CBF 1000. So just to set the scene, the couple of things we're going to be rating the bike on is, your comfort. That's very important in a commuter. Fuel economy, how good it looks dirty. And then there's one really important one for me is, the practicality balanced against the fun. So that's a sliding scale, and I'm going to give you a verdict on, where the bike sits. Is it more towards practical, or is it more towards fun, or is it right in the middle and balanced? And that's what I'm going to try to do. I'm going to give you actual results in the fuel economy. We'll fill this bike up at the very end of the video, and I'll either put it on screen or I'll show you me filling up and also doing the calculation. And that's going to be for every bike from now on. Like I said, it also is important to me how it looks dirty. As you see, this bike is not clean, and any bike that you use to commute daily, especially in Ireland during winter, is not going to look very clean. Then just the general comfort, and also we'll talk about storage as well, because that's important, and can you sling things to it. But first and foremost, I suppose let's get on the road and kick off this video. So the reason I have decided I am uniquely placed, well, not uniquely placed to do this, but the reason I'm placed well to do this type of video, this type of review, is number one, I have 3 bikes to start with. I have this bike, I have my Magna, I have my Gixxer, the CB500. So off the bat I can do those 4 bikes, and then I plan on either begging, borrowing or stealing, by which I mean renting bikes, in order to review them going forward. The reason also that I think I'm well placed to do this type of series, and this video is going to be, like, I know how this bike is to commute on already because I commute on it all the time. But my current commute is a really good mix of boring main roads, like this one, like a motorway or interstate or whatever you want to call it in your own country, and then towards the end of the commute I do hit some fun roads. So hopefully it'll be a really good kind of balanced review of the bikes, for this type of thing. So also during this episode, which might be a little bit longer than the regular ones, I want to show everyone the route, and this bike is going to be my control. So I want this review, this testing, to be as fair as possible. I'm going to be using the same route. I'm going to try stick to the same speeds and the same level of hooliganism, as I'm going to try. I'm going to try to keep that parallel. So I'm going to show you as much of the route in a sped up way as possible, with some music over, because we're about to go onto the motorway now, which is, I'm not going to be able to speak, it's going to be too loud. But at least then if someone wants to see, it's like, okay, what's the route? They'll be able to come back to this video and see, the bulk of it. Oh, look at that lean angle. The tyres on this bike are fantastic. So yeah, enjoy the music. And there we go. Oh, my ears. I really wish I'd remembered my earplugs. I think I'm deaf now. But that there's the motorway section, or the high-speed, boring, let's square off my tyre section, main arterial route that I partially take to work. Or actually, to be honest, when I go to work, because it's dark and stuff, and the back roads can be full of animals and wet and damp and leaves, I'd often go that way. Like I said, this video is more about setup, and that's the main section of the route home, say. That is the boring road, and now we're on to the more nice, fun back roads. And this is to try provide, yes, okay, you might suffer on a part of the section home, but is it worth it in the long run? Is it worth it to have a fun bike? Because this is pretty much half and half. It's really boring and then half good. And is it worth it to have that half and half in your bike, or is it just a case that one really should be for fun and one really should be for work? Because I know, like, some of the best commuters out there, like the Honda NC750 and stuff like that, they're probably not the most fun bikes as bikes go, and that's kind of what I'm trying to do here. But anyway, first and foremost, what I want to talk about is the comfort, and I'm going to keep these short, okay? This isn't a full review of the bike, it's just for commuting. And how is the comfort? It's to be honest, it's excellent. You have that pretty big seat for my pretty big butt. It fits me very, very well, and it is extremely comfortable. I enjoy riding this bike long and short distances, but from a commuting perspective, when you're just going to be sitting in one position, like days like today, you're probably going to be geared up like the Michelin Man because it's cold. And it is important to be able to go to work and get there comfortably, because you don't want to be miserable. From a comfort perspective for commuting, this bike would score highly. I would say, from a standard perspective, because I'm going to try to review it as much as possible from a standard perspective and then suggest additions I would make. But from a standard perspective, oh, there's the old famous wobble. From a standard perspective, this bike is pretty comfortable. It could, use heated grips and maybe heated seat and stuff like that. But I think, from a standard perspective, it's pretty comfortable, maybe 8 out of 10. Seat is very comfortable, the bars are very comfortable. I personally like the standard screen. I know a lot of people don't, but people who are shorter than me, who have complained about the screen, they often add the Vario screen and stuff, so that's something you could do there. But yeah, overall from a comfort perspective, excelente for commuting. Another key feature, in my opinion, from a comfort and commuting perspective is your weather protection. Now, like I said, it is pretty cold today, and it's very, very, very windy today. Now, obviously, you do have the detracting point on the top box. In wind, you can sometimes feel it if you get a crosswind, but it's not so bad, to be honest. So definitely the fact that it's behind me and stops spray coming up, that top box adds to the weather protection in a way, and it also takes away from it from a wind point of view. But obviously then I have the GT model, so I have the upper and the lower fairings, and I would score them very, very highly. It protects me from the wind. When I'm riding on rain, it was raining this morning on the way to work a little bit, and those lower fairings do keep a lot of water, a lot of spray up off your legs, and a lot of dirt too. So if you're just riding to work on a dirty road and you don't have textiles on like I do today, and you're just wearing riding jeans or something that you're going to wear all day at work, it does deflect a lot of that dirt away from you, and it sits on the fairings, which is good. So weather protection wise, I think it's excellent. Overall, maybe 9 out of 10. Really, really, really good. Really good for weather protection. So then from your more practical point, is this bike a practical bike? And for me, for something to be practical for commuting, it has to have a pretty big tank, and this will easily do like 160 miles to a tank. It's not saying that today, so I don't know that I reset the clock, so I'm going to stop and fuel her up just to be on the safe side soon. I don't want to run out of fuel. It's probably because it's cold, but anyway. But yeah, generally speaking, yes, this bike is it's great. It's great on fuel from a practical perspective. It's not the best. It does about 40 miles to the gallon usually, to and from work, which is loads. I'll put the litres per 100 kilometers up on screen now. And you know, obviously then with the storage, so you'll see on screen now with the storage, you know, I can fit my full backpack in there, which keeps that off your back, which is just, it's so much more pleasant than having the backpack on your back, particularly at this time of year, because you want to feel your back to have it free. You know, it's just so much more comfortable. So that does help a huge amount to me. Massive difference. And then also, you know, you know, you do have the likes of ABS, good for winter. It has linked brakes, which I don't like, but that's a different discussion for another day. But you know, at this time of year, and for a commuter bike, or a bike you use for commuting, this isn't really a commuter bike, they do come in handy. You know, it's just that extra bit of comfort that, you know, you apply one brake and you know you're actually applying both, and you tend not to be racing too much when you're commuting. You just get comfortable, you get used to the bike and you get comfortable with it. So from a practical perspective, this one, it scores really high as well, maybe 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10. Yeah, from a practical point, it's really easy to use in around traffic. This bike, honestly, this bike rides itself. It's one of the easiest bikes to ride that I've ever used. So yeah, practicality loses a mark or two on the fuel economy because it's not the most fuel efficient, but scores perfectly everywhere else. So, you know, like I said, 8, 9 out of 10. Now I'm going to get fuel because that gauge is worrying me. I'd say it'll turn out that we're absolutely fine. It's just it's probably reading a bit wrong because it's cold, but we'll see. We're about to find out. So that was 15 litres for 150 miles. I'll work that out and put it up on screen what that was miles per gallon. Now this bike, like I said, about 8 out of 10 practicality wise. It could be better on fuel. But other than that, it's honestly, it's perfect. Like, it's lovely to ride, oodles of power for your commute. You can leave it in a high gear, and you have your good weather protection and whatnot. Now, another thing which other people might disagree with me, so this is one that may be contentious, but in my opinion, a bike that you use for commuting, not only does it have to stand up to dirt pretty well, but it has to look good when it's dirty, because it's going to spend a lot of its life dirty if you're commuting on it. You know, like, I'm just not going to wash this bike every day. Not at the moment anyway. Actually, I'm never going to wash a bike every day. And in my opinion, this bike does. It dirties up pretty good. You know, it doesn't look terrible when it's filthy, and it does spend a lot of its life filthy. So that's kind of the way it is. And then lastly, and we're going to do the summary every time in the shed, so I can walk around. When we get home, we're going to do it in the shed. But lastly, the balance between being practicality and fun, because I know for me, I don't want a bike that just does commuting really well, but is otherwise super boring. Oh, that sun is bad. Is that a Romanian flag? I think that's a Romanian flag. And this bike, I think, it has a good balance because it's 1000cc, because it's an inline 4 and it's based off an old Fireblade engine. You have lots of power when you want it, and it's really nice on the twisties. You know, you can kick it into corners, even with the top box on it. Even set up for commuting in my Michelin Man outfit. You know, you can just even slow behind cars. You can have fun. You can whip this around left, right, up, down. It doesn't matter. So this bike, like I said, it's going to be a sliding scale between practical and power and fun, and right in the middle we're going to have balanced. And for me, this bike is actually dead center, which is also a great control for our testing. Because, you know, you can do that at the drop of a hat in order to get past traffic, and that's what's fun. Nothing like kicking on a bit. Nothing like kicking on a bit. What a day. And I'm on a bike which I think is the perfect balance between practical and fun for commuting. A quick ejemplo of the fun. So to finish up the commuter review on this 2011 Honda CBF GT model, I would highly recommend it. Like everything I said stands, you know, it's a good balanced bike. It is lots of fun when you want it to be. It's reasonably practical, has lots of storage room on a day-to-day basis, lots of things to bolt stuff on. It looks pretty good when it's dirty, which is, in my opinion, it's very important for a daily bike, you know. And one thing that I wanted to mention in the shed every time is reliability. I haven't had any issues with this bike at all. It's been perfect. Parts are pretty cheap for it because it's a Honda. Parts are easy to come by for it because it's a Honda. The engines are known to go forever. There's only the one thing, and that's the stator. The stator can go, which isn't that cheap of a part or a component to replace, but it's also not the end of the world. I know what a lot of people do is they fit a voltage monitor to their handlebars so they can actually see if their battery starts to drop off and they've time to park up the bike and they don't get stranded. If it's something that you're really concerned about, just carry a spare one with you. They're not too bad to change. But I think for the purposes of commuting, you probably don't need to worry. I think it's only if you're going on tour, you might want to consider, you know, doing something like that and bringing something like that with you. What are the recommended changes to the bike? Well, I've put out videos on it before, but I personally, increase my fun factor is fitting new exhausts. Those are Blackwood 400 mils, debaffled. The reason I went with the 400 mil is because I still wanted the bike usable on a day-to-day basis. I didn't want it too loud, so that was important. I've also done a Hagon rear shock, which is adjustable, remotely adjustable. The adjustment is in here. I like the suspension pretty stiff, but it is very comfortable. Because these bikes are pretty old now, old technology-wise, they don't have a sat-nav, so I have the phone holder here. This is an Ultimate Add-ons phone holder with Ultimate Add-ons accoutrements in here, and I couldn't recommend them higher. They're absolutely brilliant. Really, really handy. If you're going somewhere for work and you're not really sure where you're going, you can throw that on GPS-wise, and it's very good. So, you know, overall, there's not a whole pile of things you'd want to change. The only things that I have not done yet that I want to do for a commuting perspective is heated grips. I want to put on heated grips. People have told me to get heated grips for years, so it's something that I'm going to probably have to try just to see how I get on with it. And also, it's very important to have good tires. These tires, they give me so much confidence in the wet and the dry. They're Dunlop Sport Maxes. They're not unbelievable in the wet, but they're unbelievably good in the dry. So big shout out to them. And Franklin Motorcycles, where I bought this bike, actually fitted them, and they couldn't have made a better choice. I will definitely be putting the Sport Maxes back on because they're fantastic tires. Like I said, could probably be better in the wet, but brilliant in the dry. So that is it. If you've enjoyed this video, please make sure to let me know in the comments. As this is kind of a thing I want to do, is the commuter reviews. But yeah, if you're looking for a commuter that you can also use to tour and also use to have a bit of fun on, Honda CBF 1000, you can't really go wrong. I've said it in the actual first ride review I did, but all around it's just a fantastic bike, and I will eventually do a long-term owner's review on this as well, which will be a bit more in detail. But from a commuter's perspective, not only is this going to be my white paper bike, you know, the one that I base everything else off of for now. Yeah, it's just a great standard. It's just a great standard all-rounder. Really couldn't recommend it higher. So yeah, if you've enjoyed this idea of it, if you've enjoyed this whole idea of a commuter series, let me know. And if you're new here, if this is the first ever time you've seen the channel of The Gorilla Biker, then please do hit the like and subscribe buttons. It would mean a lot to me. I have like nearly 200 other videos there, all to do with bikes and stuff around bikes, so do give them a watch as well. It's not just commuting, I do lots of trips and stuff like that too. And also just talking about bike stuff in general as well as reviews, so go give them a watch. And as always, thank you for watching. A very special thank you to my patrons who I told about this series that I wanted to do it a while back. I put up a poll and it was all received positively, so I hope you enjoyed the end result. And yeah, until next time, thank you very much for watching. Adios. Outro crew. Isn't it pretty? Even dirty. It's a lovely bike. Yeah, I really like this bike. I really like this bike. Luna! She's meowing at me again. Sorry, Loons. She loves being in here this time of year. Anyway, yeah, there's a CBF. And question outro crew. Would you use it as a commuter? There you go. Would you use this bike as a commuter? Bam. Answer me.